Well, happy Friday, Juma Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim faithful. It's the last day of the working week for this particular week. It's Friday, the 14th of April, 2023. Thank you so much for starting your morning with us on Morning Spring this morning on Western Spring Television. We're reaching you live from StarTimes channel 190 on the DTT platform, but you can follow the conversation on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Western Spring Television, where you can follow us live on all our programs and also catch up on all the episodes that you've missed for your favorite programs. So a few days, just a couple of days before the end of the Ramadan fast, and we wish our Muslim brothers and sisters all the best as they continue to seek the face of God in this month. Thank you for starting your day with us. Emmanuel Jadigele is my name. Good morning.
It's another beautiful Friday morning, and thanks for joining us on the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. I'm Temitope Ajijalaoluwala.
Well, so let's quickly tell you now that if you're just joining us for the first time, we bring you three segments of the program: the newspaper review segment, also bring you the interview segment, and spring trends, where we tell you who is trending, what is trending, and why they are trending. Because of course the conversation has now mostly left newspaper stands and beer parlors, as we like to refer to them, and now happen on the social media. That's where you have convergent and divergent views over socio-political and socio-economic issues. But we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll bring you the papers. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the show. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper for you this morning. The Punch newspaper is where we start our review. The Punch banner headline says, supplementary elections, APC, PDP battle for 2 governors, 94 legislative seats. APC, PDP battle for 2 governors, 94 legislative seats. Atiku mobilizes support for PDP candidate. APC backs Binani to upstage Fintiri. IG allays fears of voter intimidation, deploys personnel in 2,660 polling units. Remember that in the fallout of the general elections and of course the governorship elections on the 18th of March, there were a couple of states that were declared inconclusive, and there were also some legislative seats at the House of Assembly and National Assembly level that were also declared inconclusive. But most prominent amongst all of these elections and that battle and those battles will be the battle in Adamawa State between Abdullahi Fintiri and Aisha Mohammed, also known as Binani. There was some inconclusiveness to their elections, and they will be part of the supplementary elections on the 15th. That's tomorrow, 24 hours, less than 24 hours now. Both of them will be going back head to head. There was a slight lead for Governor Abdullahi Fintiri over Aisha Mohammed, and let's see if she'll be able to upturn that in the areas where the elections were declared inconclusive. And also it's good to see the Inspector General of Police telling voters that they will not be intimidated, and also deploying personnel in all of these polling units to effectively police the system. And we hope that we don't have issues with beavers this time.
Apart from voter intimidation, I hope that we don't have voter apathy as well. Saying that the first elections was, rendered inconclusive. I just hope that people would find the courage to come out this time, hoping that their votes would count.
Well, below that story, there's a picture there. Buhari performs lesser Hajj. Muslims urged to be self-reliant. You can see the president there in his garb. Beside him is the Minister for Communications and Digital Economy, Sapantami, and part of the president's entourage there, all performing the lesser Hajj, with the message being that Muslims should be self-reliant in this period. They should be self-reliant. Very strong message, and I think it's a message for everyone too. You have to be self-reliant at this time. On page 12 of the Punch, Obi Kwakwanso shared articles vote. Tinubu tells tribunal. Obi Kwakwanso shared articles vote. Tinubu tells tribunal. Well, that's also a part of the fallout of the post-election period here in Nigeria. Everybody's going to court. Everybody's wanting their voices to be heard by the court, and everybody making excuses really for their performances and the performances of the other parties in the election. But we wait for the proceedings to begin proper. You can see that many Nigerians have clamored for the proceedings to be televised. There are persons saying that if you could televise the Oputa panel, of course you can televise the presidential election petition tribunal. Let's see if the judiciary will agree to that. There seems to be some sacredness and mystery attached to the judiciary. Let's see if this time, I don't see why it cannot be televised for people to hear and see all of the arguments. So they don't rely on journalists, some of whom are not just journalists now, political writers, some of whom can twist, deliberately word some stories to mislead people. Then it will be interesting in the coming days to see what happens at the tribunal. On pages 4 and 5, building collapse, Lagos State government stops construction projects on Banana Island as it should be. And that's what should have been done. That's what should be done, really. All of the projects must be stopped and re-examined. If there are some that are found to be defective, then there should be controlled demolitions. Take all of those buildings down and start all over if you can, or just do everything you can to safeguard the lives of people. It's becoming a defining feature of Lagos. Highbrow areas actually collapses here and there every now and then. I don't think that's proper for people who just want to. And most of these places are actually expensive places. Banana Island and Ikoyi, VGC, all of those places, expensive places. And that should be coming with safety, apart from the leisure and the luxury should be coming also with safety. But unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing. Well, it's important that all of that is also solved. Pages 4 and 5. Now on page 18 of the Punch newspaper, House leadership reps elect from 283-member alliance, talking about the greater minority. That's the name of their group there. Some members of House of Assembly, of House of Representatives, who belong to the minority, forming a majority to upstage the majority APC. Some interesting politics, really. The 283, subtract that from 360, I think you have an overwhelming majority that cannot be overturned by anyone. But let's see if that alliance will stand in the 10th Assembly, the 9th Assembly, the 8th Assembly, and the 9th Assembly. For those who followed the saga then can remember that it was full of drama, twists and turns, last-minute decisions, last-minute pull-outs, last-minute alliances. And eventually we got to see the result of that in the leadership of the Assembly, particularly in the 9th Assembly, that produced Idris Wase as Deputy Speaker, House of Reps, and Femi Gbajabiamila. And of course, at the National Assembly, Ovio Mwagege as Deputy Senate President, and Ahmed Lawan as Senate President. It's just a lot of politicking in the House of Representatives now, people wanting to take power from the... I don't know if that's grounded in law. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know, but I think it's permissible in politics. People can decide to put aside party affiliations just to come into power. People always say that political parties are special purpose vehicles to get to power, and not necessarily any other thing. But in the coming days, by May, when the 10th Assembly will be inaugurated also, we'll see who gets what and which zone gets what. Then that's that on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. Above the name plate On page 12, Tinubu done make Time magazine's 100 most influential persons. We read that story yesterday. That Tinubu was the only Nigerian on that list of 100 influential persons across the world, and it generated lots of comments on both sides of the divide. Some commending Tinubu for having made it, some saying, well, in the face of all of these allegations and controversies, it probably shouldn't. But then the category is influence, and according to the Time magazine, influence could be positive or negative. Yeah. I don't suppose that Asiwaju's influence was negative. I suppose that I read the article attached to it, and they were talking about his influence in the political sphere as a former governor and all of that, and they have their parameters. What I'm not comfortable with is the way some persons have attacked the writer of that column and forced her to lock her account on Twitter, particularly the obedience. I know that you may not be comfortable with seeing Tinubu on time, but then it's not your call to make. You don't decide who gets what outside the shores of Nigeria. And so it was wrong to have bullied the young lady who wrote the story. In fact, her name is on top 5 trends currently on Twitter. And well, I hope that she doesn't, white people are always quick to pull the mental health card. I hope she doesn't get to that level, actually. But then, congratulations to Asiwaju Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our president-elect of Nigeria, for making it to the Times 100 most influential persons. On page 20, CBN to mop up dormant account balances unclaimed funds. Your account has been dormant for ages, you have unclaimed funds there. Well, it might be time for you to reactivate your account so you don't lose whatever amount you have there. That's on page 20. And finally, on page 19, fuel subsidy, oil theft go up 29 trillion naira, says federal government. There's a picture of Ahmed there, our finance minister, who has been reeling out statistics recently, actually giving us some really shocking and very much dire statistics. For subsidy oil theft to go up in 29 trillion naira. So perhaps if we remove fuel subsidy, we'll have some money to spare. And if we curb, what's it called now, oil theft, we'll also have some money to spare and recoup. Well, that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning, Friday, 14th April, 2023.
Well, on the Guardian newspaper, the headline says Senate presidency, Kalu Akpabio lead as South jostles for Lawan seat. Kalu Akpabio lead as South jostles for Lawan seat, and that story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. And the next story on the Guardian newspaper on page 18, CBN takes custody of dormant funds from banks. And just like Emmanuel read earlier from the Punch newspaper, the CBN is to mop up the old accounts that are not, that are dormant and unclaimed funds. And CBN takes custody of dormant funds here from banks. And on page 3, accountability concerns trail yearly 63.46 million barrels oil swap deal. Accountability concerns trail yearly 63.46 million barrels oil swap deal. That's on page 3 of The Guardian. Still on page 3, aviation workers threaten 2-day warning strike over COS welfare. Aviation workers threaten 2-day warning strike over COS and welfare. It's still, tied to the supposed renovation of, the airport that has been in the news for a while now. And a strike is imminent. They're threatening strike. The workers there are threatening strike over COS and welfare. And then on page 6, drama continues as Obi denies British government apology over detention. Drama continues as Obi denies British government apology over detention. Well, I just know how aggrieved Peter Obi could be right now, considering the level of humiliation he must have suffered, given status, and not even status now, any other human being would have been, that aggrieved. But I just hope that the drama can subside and everyone can move on, as peacefully as possible. But then it goes, I don't know how the apology came to him, or, why he is, denying that apology. But I think that the immigration of the world, every country's immigration should do better whenever they're trying to, confirm people's and scrutinize people's identity. It should be better, so that nobody is subjected to undue humiliation. But then, moving away from that story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper to get more information and details of the story. And just on page 4 and 5, beaches for the rich, from solving chronic erosion to privatizing beaches. Beaches for the rich, from solving chronic erosion to privatizing beaches. To get so much from that narrative, you can check pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. But that's all on the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Well, if you've been on social media for the past few days, you would follow the conversation on Nigerians' agitation about the coastline in Lagos, particularly in Lagos, talking about how there are no roads on the coastlines. If you go to Ghana, for instance, you can drive by while looking at the coastlines, but all of the beaches in Lagos have been privatized. You can't, you pay to enter, pay to drink, pay to do this, pay to do that. It's a free gift of nature, actually, that you can just sit beside, ruminate, take in the beauty of nature. But almost everything has been privatized, and that's that conversation going on social media, seeing if government can open up the beach industry in quote now, as it were, to bring on a lot of people who be interested in actually, even if you monetize it, make it accessible to people. People travel miles and miles on inaccessible roads, bad roads, just to get to the beaches. So if you go through that story, you see some of the arguments for opening up coastlines, the roads that lead up to coastlines. In fact, that was a campaign message of one of the governorship candidates in Lagos, who said he was going to open up, build roads along the coastline for people who are fun goers and who love to tour that line and attend or visit beaches to relax and enjoy their time. Let's move on to the Nation newspaper this morning. Banner headline: Tinubu to tribunal, petitions by Atiku PDP not competent. Writer says not joining Obi Kwakwanso invalidate suit. Voters in FCT not superior. As one of the contending issues, one of the recurring and contending issues of the election, the provision of the Constitution as to the status of Abuja, as to the spread that a presidential candidate must have. The Constitution actually provides it for two circumstances. The first is if there are only two candidates, and the second is if there are two or three or more candidates. And so we are all waiting, everybody on the streets, in the houses, waiting for the interpretation of that section of the Constitution by the judiciary to see if, of course, if indeed Abuja does have a special status, or if it's just part of all of the other territories where elections held. And below that, Nigeria working to meet malaria vaccine deadline. Ghana okes used for children under 3. So on page 4 of the Nation. And the quote there says, widespread use of a vaccine to prevent malaria disease will soon be a commonplace in malaria endemic countries such as Nigeria. We've gotten used to treating malaria, but thankfully now there is a vaccine for malaria. I'm wondering how it's going to work.
Yeah.
If it's going to make you immune to mosquito bite or the parasite that causes malaria. But then science is evolving and a lot of breakthroughs are being made, a lot of discoveries, a lot of new frontiers being explored by scientists and medical practitioners. And of course, I'm sure that we will be able to have access to that vaccine that has been worked on by several persons, but at the behest of the World Health Organization, WHO. We hope that we get those vaccines soon. Besides the pictorial story there of the president performing Lesser Hajj in Makkah yesterday, is the IMF advocating debt rescheduling for developing countries. IMF advocates debt rescheduling for developing countries. So many developing countries are in debt. Nigeria's public debt stock is high, strangely high, funnily high. You go to Ghana, you go to every other country, you go to even the western part of the world where we have also third world countries, they are all in debt. And I want to toe the line of the IMF asking for a rescheduling, because some of these governments, some of these countries, some of these sovereign entities are really struggling with economic challenges, economic issues. So I hope that we can listen to them, can listen to the IMF, and indeed reschedule all of the debts for developing countries. Right. At the bottom strip, PSC probes cash for promotion allegation. Police Service Commission ordering an investigation into allegations that people pay for their promotion. Solomon Arase seems to be intent on bringing about a change in the PSC, giving it a new face and a new mode of operation. That's commendable. I personally hope that he keeps up the tempo and reduces that friction between the PSC and the office of the IGP. Over the years, there's been so much that has put those two offices at variance with each other. The employment of police officers, the remuneration, welfare packages, and all of those other contending issues. But Arase and Osman Baba have signaled their interest or their intentions to lay aside those issues, those distractions, and work hand in hand to ensure that they move the police force forward. And it will be interesting to actually see the outcome of all of these probes, these allegations, because it happens everywhere. We've heard stories, you've had people who lobby for promotion. I mean, lobbying is not bad, but when you have to induce people to get your promotions that you deserve, then it's a really, really distasteful thing, very devastating. Hope that the PSC can unravel all of that and put a stop to it.
Yes, we hope so.
That's on page 5 or page 3 of the Nation. And 7 burned to death in Ogere crash on page 6 of the Nation. Below the nameplate, NSI grew net assets to 1.02 trillion naira in 2022. Tet Fund okays 30 billion naira for projects. Above the nameplate, Time lists Tinubu amongst 100 most influential. That's page 5. You can get more on that story and see other people who made the list on the 5th page of the Nation newspaper. On page 6, regarding the collapsed building in Banana Island, nobody trapped under collapsed Lagos building. 25 rescued, 7 injured. We've not heard any fatalities, and I'm hoping that this is not just some sort of disaster management, but the true picture of things, and that there've been extensive search before all of these conclusions were arrived at. And on page 5, Nati government spends 13 trillion naira on petrol subsidy in 6 years. And if you ever need one of the arguments for the removal of petrol subsidy, that's it there. We could have saved 13 trillion naira on petrol subsidy in 6 years. But that's all on the Nation newspaper, and that's all on the papers. I'll be back shortly to give you a recap of all the things that went down on social media in the last few days. And after that, we'll be taking our guests for you. Stay with us.
Tested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Alright, check your time, and it's 7:31 a.m. on Friday, 14th April 2023. Let's take a recap. Let's go through the week. Let's take a walk down the week on social media and show you some of the things that occurred, some of the things that made the news. We began on Monday. We told you on Monday that the St. Francis Xavier Church, Catholic Church in Owo, reopened for service 10 months after terrorists attacked it on the 5th of June, killing 41 people, wounding 8 others, explosions here and there. And then on Easter Sunday, the church was opened. But on Sunday, another thing that happened was the trending video of soldiers assaulting a representative of the gods a masquerade. I brought that to you. Let's take a look again at that video.
Masquerade, pump your jaw now, give her. Masquerade, guy. This masquerade, this masquerade, masquerade, sir. Masquerade, sir. Masquerade, sir. How is your mura? You cannot, sir. Masquerade, sir. How is your mura? How is your mura? Next, sir. How is your mura? Masquerade. I roll up my shawarma. I did for. I hear bastards out with them. I roll up my masquerade. Masquerade. You do this fatigue as far you want to die. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Masquerade. Sir. Masquerade. Sir. Shout thank God. Thank God, sir. Shout thank God. Thank God, sir. You see those your mates that run away. Yes, sir. By the time we release you, you go and gist them. Okay. Watch your eyes see. Okay, sir. This one that here. Shout.
Well, this week has been a week of people brutalizing others, people dragging others, people being unkind and unfair to each other. Let's see how Nigerians reacted to that story on Sunday when it came out. Begin with Samuel Adeyemi. Samuel says, Nigerian army, is this what you commissioned your men to do to Nigeria? Please bring the perpetrators of this disgraceful outing to book. This is unacceptable. You don't abuse Nigerians and disgrace our culture like this. No. CC Minister Lai Mohammed at Nigeria Federal Ministry of Communication. Igwe Onyekachi also contributed to the conversation, says this must not be allowed to slide. God forbid this kind of dehumanizing shown to man. Was it causing any problems in the community before doing this to him? The soldiers must answer for their crimes against humanity. Innocent says, this is all shades of wrong. At Nigerian Army, Defense Info Nigeria, this incident should be investigated and the culprits dealt with to prevent further degradation of community trust and cooperation. And a better Nigeria is possible, says, what's the offense of the masquerade or the person masquerading? I think it's important we know exactly what happened and then investigate who's actually wrong. But above all, their action is bad. I believe that Nigerian Army will do justice to this, as it is a matter of assault in the public. And the plug says, what sort of disrespect for the people's tradition is this right there? Is this what your men are commissioned to do? There must be consequences for such abuse of power by your men. Nigerians were really not having it on social media. Nike says, attention, Defense Headquarters, Army Nigeria, Nigerian Army, CDS Nigeria. Did the masquerade commit any crime, or the men in camouflage just derive pleasure in dehumanizing any unharmed civilian they deem fit to molest? Attention, EU in Nigeria and every other person that was tagged. Arinze Churchill says, when the leaders would lie and commit fraud bluntly with boldness, everyone got power to torment anyone. And if you speak up, they will say, I will waste you and nothing will happen. It shows that Nigerians don't respect their laws. In good countries, you dare not beat up citizens. Abba Anenechukwu says, at HQ Nigerian Army, this is so pathetic. For God's sake, what is this? Come on, we have those terrorizing certain regions in this country, and less is being done to curb that. What is you people's obsessions with masquerades in Nigeria? Big Joe of Lagos says the Nigerian Army must fish out these terrible soldiers for this disgraceful outing. Why humiliate him in the costume? The guy may be wrong, but you remove the costume and then punish him. That costume is our collective culture and tradition as a people, including the clueless soldier man. Oji Isiagalgu is the last commentator. What's the last commentator? And he said, at Nigerian Army, this is what your soldiers are doing in communities you deploy them. Why this unnecessary humiliation of an aspect of a people's culture. We're yet to get any response from the Nigerian army. We're yet to see any statement saying that the soldiers in that video had been identified or arrested. But the police must be commended on its part for having arrested all of its officers. In fact, the 3 officers who fired their weapons into the air in Kano have been dismissed from the police force. It now remains for them to be tried in a court of competent jurisdiction. Away from that manhandling of the masquerade and the brutality of the soldiers, let's go over to Tuesday, where we brought to you a gaffe or a goof made by Vice President-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of the APC, Kashim Shettima, former governor of Borno State. The young man, as I like to call him, took to social media to congratulate a certain lady. His congratulations says, congratulations to Zara Ibrahim, a Nigerian lecturer and PhD student of engineering at Aberdeen in Scotland, for winning the prestigious European Drilling Engineering Innovation Award. He went further on and on and on. But the snag or the catch or the cut was that this incident, as posted by the universities, you can see on your screen there, University of Aberdeen School of Engineering, this incident, as posted by that school, happened on the 17th of September 2019. And that post was made at 1:29 p.m. So the question now is, Mr. Kashim Shettima, why are you congratulating someone in 2023 for an award that was won in 2019? Let's look at the comments on that story. We begin with Thomas Not Sankara Isidore, who says, how can you be congratulating someone in 2023 for an award won in 2019? Is everything okay at home, sir? Even the recipient has long forgotten the award, but the APC vice president-elect is just seeing it to further an ethnic agenda. Shame on you. Ola Weapon says, okay, we look at this one. Says, congratulations, Agbani Darego, for winning Miss World. You made Nigeria proud. Keep winning, Queen. Yes, Nigerians started trolling Kashim Shettima by bringing up past events and congratulating those people in 2023. Ola Weapon says, Kashim Shettima no get data 4 years ago when this award was won. Man just got someone to put on hotspot for him. The reason for the belated congratulations. If you're looking for people with bad mouth, just come to Nigeria. Name Canry Blank says, I happily congratulate Zara for winning this award in 2019. While it doesn't take away from the joy of recognition, this is not a recent happening, as can be seen in the link. No need to manufacture events for propaganda purposes. That's from Name Can Be Blank. The next comment is from the Mayor Designs. It says, took you 4 years to congratulate her. Even Internet Explorer plus Glow can be this slow now. And some shades, stray bullet to Internet Explorer and Glow. Ayo Heart says, Oga Dave, must you talk? Award since 2019. Shey they want me ni Shaki Shebiora. Shaki trying to behave like Ora like that. Chop says, how can you be congratulating someone in 2023 for an award won in 2019? Is everything okay at home, sir? Everything should be okay at home. Ife Love says, everybody's congratulating. Kashim Shettima too wanted to congratulate LOL. He had to congratulate her for winning an award in 2019. SMH, pathetic old man. Nigeria is in a big problem. Speaking My Truth says, it took Peter Obi congratulating Nigerians for Kashim Shettima to remember what happened in 2019. You do not celebrate the academic excellence of your people. You are only playing politics. Election will be your mate. Okaka Mufasa says, congratulations to the Super Eagles of Nigeria for winning the just concluded AFCON 2013. Good job, boys. Well, that's the last comment on that story. From there, we move over to another abuse of power that we saw in the course of the week. There's been so many of these instances that is really getting worrisome and bothersome. So some young cadets of a particular branch of Nigeria's military took to the road in Akure to stop traffic because they had just graduated. Let's see how they did that.
Give masquerade. Masquerade.
Okay, so from the young cadets who left motorists stranded on the road in Akure, we move over to River State. You know that throughout last year, after the presidential primaries of the PDP in June, there was a running battle, very long battle involving Governor Nyesom Wike of River State, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi of Enugu, and Samuel Ortom of Benue, 5 of them forming what came to be known as the G5 or the Integrity Governors. And these men decided that they were going to war with their party. And they did go to war with the party, cost them the presidential slot, as some persons have said. And in the aftermath of that, a lot of persons were suspended. Some suspensions were rescinded. And now Iyorchia is no longer the chairman of the party, having been removed by court and having been earlier suspended by his own ward of the PDP. Now, the latest development is that a former senator of the Federal Republic, Senator Dino Melaye, intends to run for governorship position in Kogi State later in the year. And it's been said in different quarters that the PDP would most likely give its ticket to the combination of Dino Melaye and Natasha Akpoti. That's some permutations happening on social media and what some persons say will really give the PDP victory in Kogi State. But one man is not having that. One man is not comfortable with the news flying around that the PDP may front Dino Melaye as its candidate. That man is Governor Nyesom Wike. And he had some very, very interesting things to say about giving the ticket to Dino Melaye. Let's listen to him.
Is a pretentious character.
PDP wants to win the election. And what you will do is to give ticket to Dino Melaye, and you say that tomorrow that you are rigged when you have already started rigging yourself. I mean, if a party, and that's what I say, is this party serious at all? Do they really want to win the election, or they just want to present a candidate? Are we saying that we want to win the election, or we want to have a candidate? There are two things there. There are two things. As a party, you watch the ruling party. What did they do? Where have they picked their candidates? What is their strategy? What are we going to do? You don't just come because, oh, General was the one abusing people on behalf of your party. Therefore, that entitles him to fly the flag of the party.
Governor Nyesom Wike right there. Now, you know that Dino Melaye is someone who would not take that line low. Dino Melaye actually said in the aftermath of that they were making prison clothes for Wike and that his inmates are already waiting for him. He's going to eat good in prison. Yes, is waiting for him. But aside all of those things, he had an official response to Governor Nyesom Wike. Let's take a listen and a look at what Dino Melaye had to say in response to Governor Nyesom Wike.
Is a pretentious character, is a liar, and he has no integrity, no iota of integrity. Wike was calling me when Atiku Abubakar was to announce his running mates. I have records and I've printed it out and I'm waiting for him. He called me 19 times in 2 hours, begging us to convince Atiku Abubakar to make him the vice presidential candidate. So when I see him lying on TV, because of the south of this country, because of southern Nigeria, the thing of moves to south, you that were lobbying us and begging us, promising us heaven and earth to convince Atiku Abubakar to make you vice presidential candidate, to the extent that he was at the airport. I have a video. He spent hours in the airport waiting for me to call him to say, Atiku, I picked you as a... He was at the airport here, waiting, calling me. He was calling me, my brother and friend, who were in the Senate together, was also calling me that day. I have witnesses. I even gave the phone to Abdul Ningi to speak with him. I gave the phone to Senator Zameri to speak with him.
Some gists drop in there, some names drop in, some details. I wonder you called someone 19 times in 2 hours. And after Wike had said he wasn't going to accept vice presidential ticket. This country, a lot of things are happening in this country. Oh my God. Well, let's see how Nigerians responded to that back and forth primarily between Wike and Dino Melaye. But let's see. Nigerians had very strong comments for Mr. Nyesom Wike of Rivers State. Emperor Simeone says, I cannot but agree with Demola Larewaju that this person, that's Governor Wike, fits the profile of a tyrant rather than a Democrat. For those relating G5 with RU, do you now see what's going on outside RU's chairmanship? Is this still about RU? Ayabami says this man installed an unknown civil servant with zero political executive experience as governor, but he thinks a legislator with experience in House of Reps and Senate voted for by the people isn't qualified. I don't have any dog in the Kogi race, but this is hilarious. Esteem says, LOL, whatever he says about Dino is correct. Whatever Dino decides to equally say about him will also be correct too. Let them both just fight naked for my entertainment. I have no dog in the fight. And I think that's what most persons are waiting for. They just want to see Wike and Dino Melaye go at each other's throat, you know, give each other some gasbos and spill us, entertain us, give us information that we need to know. Good luck, Osaratin says Governor Wike is overreaching his relevance. For the avoidance of doubt, Dino was massively voted in as a senator before. To think that Kogites will hate to vote him as their governor is the height of hubris from Wike. Dino is far better than the puppet he foisted on Riverians. Mazi Lupin says, I thank God that I and many people no longer listen to this man nor watch his videos. He has become an enemy of the people and highly irrelevant now. Lekan Ijebu Tax says, can't this guy keep his mouth closed? He's always in the business of PDP state chapters trying to cause confusion and sow discords, sow seeds of discord. I can't understand why a River State man is concerned about happenings in Kogi. Adeda says, now Wike call press conference and media chat pass for Nigeria. If not that, he's speaking at his numerous project commissionings. You can fault him for many things, but not for his performance as governor. Now why them they call him Mr. Project, talk and do. Political burner boy. Yes, Daddy says, PDP has a dancer as a governor in Osun State, a 100-meter dash runner in Benue State, and Wike himself is a band leader. So there's nothing stopping Kogi State from selecting a clown and a court jester to govern them. Some gospels for everybody collect there. Jones Jack says, not a fan of this man, but he spoke well with regards to Dino. That man cannot be governor of our state. How can we go from Ibro, Wanda, Adbelo, and Dino? Them swear for us. Kogi State is not a circus. Olauda Kriano says, is it Nyesom Wike a common thug that has what it takes to be a governor? We've since seen how he has governed Rivers to the state of pure authoritarianism. Well, these are all the stories that we've had for you all around the weekend. Some of the selected stories. I'll still be back later to tell you what is happening currently and some of the discussions people are having on social media. In the meantime, we'll take a break, and when we'll come back, it will be time to have a guest in the studio to stay with us.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele Mens was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an Akaba museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European
All right, welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, and of course, it's time to have our conversation. This time we have again in the studio Mr. Moses Obadito, who is a legal practitioner and a right activist. Thank you for your time again on the show this morning, Mr. Obadito.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so the last time you were here, we talked about the issue that happened in Akure, Ondo State, the young man who was lynched and under suspicions that he was a fraudster, even though facts are now beginning to emerge that he was never a fraudster. But then, a few hours later, less than 48 hours later, in the university at Ife Obafemi Awolowo University, there was an incident, a similar incident like that. You know, a young man, 28 years old, Ahinze Okoli, was murdered on the allegations that he stole a phone. And so I'm just going to ask you again, as a people, where does jungle justice sit in our society? As it were, two cases now. In fact, there were some reports of another case in Osun State that has not been confirmed. But two cases in less than 72 hours. What exactly is going on?
Yeah, when the state fails, that what we call failure of the state. A state is said to have failed when it cannot hold forth, cannot control legally, it cannot administratively, cannot hold forth, and everybody is to himself and God is for us all. In a situation like that, people behave in the way you are describing. Secondly, when there is animosity, which is it's not a law, it is just a situation, a social malignity, something that is not supposed to be found in society, where people just behave and no one goes after them, haven't violated the law. And two, when the law enforcement agency decides not to act, maybe because they are compromising, or in a situation where some people even tell you, look, I will kill you and nothing will happen. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And what they mean this, because they have done it before. And those people believe in three things. Because I have met a man said, I can do anything. And once I have these three, what are those things? I need to know people. Number two, I have money. Number three, then you need juju. So these people use it in some, especially in African society, it's a developing society. But in a developed society, where law is sacrosanct, where people behave according to the rules and regulations, such things are not common. And if ever it happens, immediately the government rises up to the occasion and that person is immediately penalized. But when we look around, let's begin to take one by one. Some years back, the story I'm telling is over 20 years. A woman in Kano picked a sheet of paper on the ground, not knowing that it was a piece of paper that was torn off from a Quran. And as soon as that woman used it to clean up her baby anus, it was alleged that that woman has committed sacrileges. And before they know it, they ran after the husband, and which is called John or something like that. So the police took this man, kept him inside the prison in Akaluka. They went to the prison, broke down the gate and brought this man. They cut off his head and they were using it to humiliate in Kano. Google the story, John Akaluka. Till today, those who committed crime, they did not do anything for them. Let's come back home. In Sokoto last year, a lady was said to have attributed her success to Jesus. And that led to argument. Before we know it, they say he has violated the law, Islamic law. And her colleague killed her and burnt her there. The police only came and said public disturbance. That's the end of the story. And we begin to give you example by example like that, how people are being lynched, and then government will look the other side, or law enforcement will not do anything. That is why it has become a culture. So if you begin to allow evil to prevail over good, the law in that land will not function. It is one thing for the law to be there. It's now for the law enforcement agent to carry out the law, and then for the court. But when they do not bring a case to the court, what do you do? Or even when, like the case in Sokoto I've just cited, the lady, they didn't cite that they killed her. They just said public disturbance. How can it be public disturbance when a lady was lynched, burnt? That's not public disturbance. That is murder. So these are the reason why these type of things keep on increasing, because the state failed to act according to the law.
Now, the disturbing part of the Akure issue was the fact that there were some fake news, attached to it, some sensationalism. The people who attacked him allegedly went about saying that he was a fraudster, and they found certain items in his car and all of that. And so it has led to another conversation entirely of an ongoing silent war between those who are perceived to be rich or well off and those who feel that they don't have enough. Because in some of the videos, some persons were saying that if you wear a pair of pants that cost 25,000, you must be a fraudster. If your clothing is up to 150,000, you must be a ritualist, and so you have to be stoned to death. Are we at a place where the haves and the have-nots are heading for a potential clash?
Well, for us to be able to understand the Akure scenario and then use it on the national level, we need to look at that issue. In that story, if I got it right, it was alleged that that guy intentionally killed those people in order to use them for sacrifice. Maybe he needed to shed blood. Then, if you look at that, assuming it is true, then those people lynched, do they have such a right? That's the mere allegation. So those people themselves are criminals, and the law should go after them, arrest them for carrying out jungle justice. Now you are looking at, because maybe you dress properly and that kind of thing, so because your shoe or your car you wear, as a sort, it has developed to that level. I would say to some degree, when you look at the history of mankind, there has been a sort of social rival between the Lords and the South. There have been a controversy between the have and the have-nots. But then, it is the society that must regulate that social milieu. That means the relationship between the have, but in a situation where those who have used what they have to oppress the poor has a right to react. And their reaction now depends on these people, the law enforcement agency. Let's keep it this way. A man was selling something akara by the roadside. And because you're rich, you use your vehicle to kick that thing, and including the stove, the charcoal over there. No mercy. You should come with politeness. I'm sorry, it was not intended. If you have in a position, you can give them the money. But where you now want to prove, the police should arrest you because you have gone all the way to destroy the woman's daily bread. But in a situation where the society is not regulated based on the rules and regulation, and you are now saying it's because he's rich, that's why the money is sitting. No, it's not. It may not be totally the same thing. Now let's look at what the Nehru Gandhi said. Nehru Gandhi was the independent president of India. He said, poverty is the mother of crime. In a society where crime is, poverty is in the extremity, like in us today, you will find level of crime. And so it is not a matter that that man who is committing crime is angry with you. He saw that you are a man of substance and he can pick something from you. And that's why in Yoruba philosophy or in their language, they say, Olowo kan leyin otoshi, òun náà otoshi ni. A rich man among the poor one is also poor. You know why? If he doesn't take care of those ones, they will come for him. But when a rich man takes care of the poor man, he's paying insurance. When? The day they will come for him, those poor people will stand. It's our God, can't do anything here. But when you live in the midst of poverty and you are the one enjoying the ocean of wealth, you are going to create a social malady. It has happened in every society, and it's likely to happen again and again until there's a resocialization. And this leads to the reason why rich men pay taxes. Even in the Bible says, the poor will not but be amongst you. But in the process of harvesting your farm, don't finish everything. Leave some, so that those who are in need may come for those grains. And then not only that, some people are supposed to, from the Bible, because most of Constitution took their root from that place, that you, out of the many you have, you will pay to the state. I give you the story you are likely to remember. Joseph, in the days of Egypt, when Pharaoh dreamed and said this, so it's okay, let's store out. So that when a particular period, the year of plenty is over, and the year of famine come, we can be selling to the people. And then begin to bring them. When those things finish and people do not have, what they say, oh yeah, begin to give your land to the king. They were using it in form of taxation until it came to the point that the Pharaoh was the owner of the land. And if you are from Benin, who is the owner of the land in Benin? The Obas. But that is the social. But then let's come to the modern thing. Out of the many, out of the rich, the plenty that the rich man has, he has to pay more, so that there could be what called redistribution of income. When you pay tax as a millionaire, billionaire, the man who is graduating, the man who is walking the street, he needs job. So redistribution of that your wealth will now allow this man to have a place. But the question we're asking today, and which you are likely to know as a journalist, that most of our rich people don't pay tax. If they are going to pay at all, they go there and influence and say, look, old boy, last year you charged me 20 million. This year I don't get to. How you go help me now? Okay, you go do me this way. And then they will pay 5 million. I read in the newspaper, and I believe it, that in Lagos, out of the rich men there, only about 20 pay 20 million as tax. Will you believe that story? Because you can keep on counting billionaires there. So in the midst of this one, instead for them to let government take from the plenty so that they can provide for those who have no job in Oshodi, those who have no job in Ajegunle, those that need road, those that need clinic, and many things, they are not there. And then let's look at it. They will read in radio, they listen on television, or they read the newspaper and listen on radio and television that you have traveled for medical checkup. And when they get to General Hospital in Isolo, they say no drug. Old boy, your wife won't deliver. Go look for 35,000. You no get. And so the next time something happen, the rich man just splash water. What do you expect him to react? It's to pay people. My wife died because of 5,000. See how you splash. You go after you, and then you say he's angry because you're no. It is social. It is. It's I call it. Is reacting. Is dispensing his aggression. We call it displacement of aggression. So the poor is angry with the rich because the rich has failed in his duty of paying to the state, so that the state can also remember this man, so can have the basic needs of life. What are the basic needs of? Housing, food, and clothing. Don't you see people? Any state you go in Nigeria, you see people sleeping in the streets. Why? Because there's hardship in the land. And yet, there's some few, and we are told, and I believe it to be true, that 2% of Nigerians are holding 90% resources. Look at section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution. It said there must be a redistribution of resources so that no people will have control of our resources. Is it not the same story? In today's paper, the Nimeti are saying that 16 trillion oil was stolen. 16 trillion was spent on the oil subsidies. And who are the people who are going to jail? The elite. And the man who is watching you at the gate doesn't have even 1 naira in his pocket. And some people stole 16 trillion. What is their percentage? So it is not because the poor man is angry with you. It's simply because he needs food, he needs housing, he needs education. And do you know the implication? The rich doesn't have large family, 2 children, 4. He do what we call family control. But the poor man has no game. As soon as he returns home, his only game is his wife. So he will procreate 10 children. And the Emma of Kano told us, he said before somebody is 20 years old, he has 4 wives. Produce 20 children. So these 20 children, how will they be able to school? How will they go to school? And that's why you find a lot of people out of school. And government was supposed to owe it a duty. Because if you look back as far as 1952, there have been free education in Southwest. Then in 1955, free education in the East. Not just free and compulsory primary education. Today, ask me, 36 states. How many, as a journalist, states are implementing this one? So that those people who said they are 22 million illiterate roaming the street. Not only that, in those days I'm talking about, they will go after the streets and go after your children and say, Mama, these children will not go collect money, come to school. This is the period they are registering. Before you pause me, let me just give an example. A friend of mine has to be assisted to go to Britain because he was put in a family way by a colleague. And so that child was eventually found in London. Do you know when the guy becomes 6 years old, they knock at the door. They say, you are the woman from Nigeria. Says, you have a 6-year-old girl. You are supposed to register in our Bure. Say, yes, I've registered in another. Bure means local government. Can they do that in Nigeria today? Not only that, because she was single parent, they will give her £80,000 annually for that girl. The girl I'm talking is now a graduate. That is how a developed country spend money on social, so that that girl will not become a miscreant. She will not be a prostitute because mother is poor. But in our own country there, who will knock at your gate if your child go to school or doesn't go to school? In fact, because of 300 naira, a child was knocked out in this state, in Osogbo here, because they asked them to go and bring maybe teachers and parents association money. So these are some of the things that we need to look at holistically before you can say the poor is angry because you are rich. No, the poor is frustrated. The poor is hungry, and an angry man is a hungry man is an angry man.
But is there a possibility that this gap can be closed? Do you think that looking at the distribution of wealth and the concentration of wealth now, not distribution, do you think that gap can ever be closed?
It can. It depends on the governments and the leadership. I'll give an example of some country that have passed through where we're going. Let me go to South Africa. For, I don't know, more than 50 years, the South African was under apartheid policy. What is apartheid? A discrimination because of your skin, and whereby the whites have 57% of the landmass. And they have less population. Let's say they have about 20 million population. And the remaining 27 or 23% was given to the blacks. And so most of the social things that the white has, like education, hotel, and many other things, sport, they cannot go there. So there's this discrimination. And it degenerated to the level that Mandela was, because he went after them. People were killed, and so he was accused, because he was a lawyer, of being one of the people who responsible for the death of the whites. So he was jailed for 27 years. While he was in jail, the struggle continued. And it came to a point, especially in the early 90s, that what called the Soweto riot, a lot of people, pupils in primary school were slaughtered, and a lot of things happened. And it came to a point, those apartheid leaders got convicted in collaboration with world condemnation, and so they granted them independence in 1994. Is the story the same today? Do you find that the social milieu there has changed? Why? Because when Mandela came, he said, I forgive those who have hurt us. All we need to do is to rebuild a nation. That's one. I'll give you a second example before I conclude it. Rwanda. There was this ethnic issue between the Tutsis and the other tribe. A president was shot down while he was in the EA. And then millions, let's call it almost million people died. Massacre. But today, a leader emerged and bringing it together. Are you aware that you can travel in Rwanda without maybe your phone, you have data or no data? And not only that, their society is now well organized than ours. Why? Because there's a healing in the land, and the leader now realized that if they are going to go places, there must be a unification and understanding. Tanzania, when Nyerere came, the level of literacy was less than 5%. By the time Nyerere ceased to be president, it was about 98% of literacy and some economic development. Today, I think the woman is the president or prime minister in that country. Why? Because there have been a healing, there have been a development. So if a leader, remember these three people I'm praising, who make the difference? Leadership, vision, mission. So if we have a leader today who come with a concrete blueprint and said, Nigeria is divided, Nigeria is facing hardship, a large number of people don't have access to water, not to talk of lights, they do not have access to health. Yes, sir. So what do we do? And I begin to do all these things, do a lot of things, and then people feel, this is a new thing. Do you think they will carry arms? Do we go into the street and begin to protest? So if we're able to change the narratives, make the common man to feel what we call the dividend of democracy, make them to have the basic needs of life, you will know things will not be as bad as this. So it all depends on those who are coming, who are not coming for themselves, but who are coming to change the narrative and say, I want to heal the land, I want to rebuild a nation, and as a result, it's going to be so. Are you aware that French was once worse than Nigeria? They are what we call the French Fourth Republic, when people were hungry, and because of bread, flour not available, they demonstrated, and they went to Louis XIV and said, sir, we do not have flour because there's no bread. Do you know what the wife said? Go and eat stone. And that led to the revolution and led to the change. And by the time one of their leaders, a retired general, came to the post, he healed the land. And France is where you can see as a model today. So there's no society that can remain static. In fact, God never made anything to be on the same spot. Change is inevitable, but it must come because people want it to come. But however, John Kennedy said, and I quote, those who make peaceful change impossible make a violent change inevitable. And that'll take us to Arab Spring. About 10 years ago or more, you will recall that in Tunisia, am I right? Yes, I think in Tunisia, a young man was selling goods by the roadside. Sorry, I think it's in Tunisia. And then the security men got there, carried his goods, and he went to appeal to the governor. They didn't listen. They said the thing, and the man came, poured petrol on himself, and got himself out. And everybody went to the street. That president in that country was removed. Things changed. The thing spread to Libya, and so that's what called Arab Spring. It didn't even to Egypt, and things changed. So if those people in those areas did not allow it to happen, it will happen because nothing can be static. Only God can be forever.
All right, only God can be forever. Mr. Baditon is always campaigning for leadership to be at its best, to be top-notch. I'd like to say to our leaders that we'll take a cue from that and ensure that we do our best to heal the land. The country is fragmented at this time. We hope that enough is done to bring peace and to bring healing. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again on the show this morning, Mr. Moses Baditon, the legal practitioner and the rights activist. Now, that's the interview segment. We'll be back to show you who and what is trending on social media. The building collapse in Lagos, the Labour Party issue, and Peter will be also in the news in the Isale Coal Union versus the promoters of the Gang of Lagos. So stay with us. We'll be back after this break.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held a lofty the touch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkelemens was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bars from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father